Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you guys are doing well during this quarantine. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mr. Riedl. I know this video is going to go to all the 6th grade science classes, so not just my students. And for those of you who haven't had me, my students know that I usually start the class with a joke of the day. So I'm sure you guys have been missing my jokes of the day. So I thought that I would start this lesson off with a joke of the day so that we can get started off on the right foot. So take a look at this joke. It is a teacher DNA strand and 3 student DNAs, and the teacher is saying, "Okay, class, let's all say our alphabet." And then the little kid DNA strands are saying A, T, C, G, A, T, C, G, A, T, C. Because those are the, get it? Because those are the only 4 letters that they know. 4 base pairs of a DNA strand. So there you go. The first joke of the day that you've had in a long time. Okay, so the genetics unit we have been doing for a couple weeks now. And just a quick recap on genetics. First of all, what is genetics? Oh, yes. Do you want to say hi to my students? On camera. That's the camera right there. Say hi.
Hi.
We're recording a video right now. Okay, thanks for knocking. Bye. Okay, so where were we? We were talking about genetics unit. So I love genetics, you guys. When I was in high school, I remember learning about genetics, and it became my passion. Like, I was so fascinated with DNA and how small it is, how long it is, and how small it is in every single one of our little cells in our whole body. All those instructions that are packed into such a tiny little molecule can make us who we are. And so genetics is the study of heredity and like how traits are passed down from our parents. So understanding how we get our DNA from our parents. We often look like our parents and we act like our parents because of the fact that we get DNA and genes from our parents. I was just absolutely fascinated by that, and I actually went into college planning on studying genetics, and I wanted to be a geneticist. I wanted to go into research and learn all about it, and so that made me think of college, and I wanted to show you a few pictures of what I did in college, because I actually worked in a biology lab as a work study student. And so let's take a look at some of these. They're kind of funny. So here's a picture of me. I remember taking this photo. My mom took this picture of me. I was giving her and my dad a tour of my lab and where I worked, and she said, "Oh, I have to take a picture of you to remember this." And I remember I was so annoyed at her when she took this picture of me in front of my lab bench. And even though I was annoyed at the time, I'm still thankful now, looking back on it, that she took the photo. So anyway, here's the picture of me. My lab notebook is right there. I remember this is a PCR machine, which is like really, really expensive. My pipetter right there, and all my vials, and I have my notebooks and my lab gloves and everything. Oh, and in the back there, Agarose Gel Electrophoresis, and here's a scan of my first agarose gel that I made. In our lab, we were studying malaria. I remember there are like different genes that have different lengths, and the size of the genes, if it's bigger, it doesn't go through the gel as fast, and the smaller it is, it goes farther. Anyway, this is more high school stuff that you'll learn in biology class in high school. Here's another picture of my lab. On the left here is a freezer, and this is like a minus 60 degrees below zero. So it's super, super cold, and that's where we kept all the malaria samples, the blood samples that were infected with malaria. There's a centrifuge way in the back by the window. And here's a nice view of Seattle, because I went to college up in Seattle, and this used to be called Seattle Biomedical Research Institute, and we got this awesome view every day. This is the culture hood room, and this is where we took actual blood that was infected with malaria. We took samples of it and grew cultures of it inside of these hoods, and because we weren't allowed to breathe on it, it wouldn't be contaminated with, what we were breathing, which is kind of appropriate right now. Like, if you can imagine scientists working on coronavirus and stuff like that. They wouldn't want to infect the samples that they're working on, so they would use these hoods in order to keep it clean and not contaminated. I remember going in here, and I remember I was really nervous because of the fact that, like, I was holding blood samples infected with malaria, and, like, if I took a needle and I stabbed myself with it, like I accidentally tripped or fell, or I did something, irresponsible, then I could get infected with malaria. So that's why there's that caution sign, and you had to be really super careful when you're working with those samples. And then one last picture is of my college dorm room. Here's my college dorm room. As you can see, on the floor there, we have the original Xbox and a Nintendo GameCube that we played with. That's what we played when I was in college. And as you can see, I still have my Pez dispensers on display up in my college dorm room, just like I have in my classroom right now. So they've been with me for a long time. All right, so after that little walk down memory lane, let's get to today's lesson. So far, what you have learned in genetics is you've watched a few videos and you've looked at a slideshow. The first few videos we're talking about, like, getting an idea of what genetics is. It's the study of genes and DNA, how parents pass on traits to their kids, and how you get characteristics that are similar. And there's some traits that you get from the environment around you that you just learn, but other traits that you just get from your parents. So there's a difference between there. And then in the slideshow, we learned about alleles and dominant and recessive alleles. So, for example, in that slideshow, it talked about dominant alleles and how dominant means stronger. So when you have a dominant hand, that's the hand that you would use to write with. For me, I'm left-handed, so my dominant hand is the one that's stronger. That's the one that I write with. I'm left-handed, so my dominant hand is left. But most people have dominant right hand. And the recessive allele is the one that's weaker. We learned about homozygous and heterozygous, and how if you have a heterozygous allele and it's like a big B, little b, then you have like two genes and one of them is big, one of them is stronger than the other, then that one is going to overpower the recessive one, and then that is what your trait is going to be. Like this real life example number 3. Sam has 2 alleles for hair color, a big B for brown, so he has an allele for brown hair and blonde hair. The little b is blonde. Then what's his hair color going to be? Well, it's going to be brown because the brown allele is overpowering the little allele, the recessive one. So his hair is brown. So he has 2 genes that are kind of like competing against one another, but the dominant one is the one that overpowers the recessive one. The only way that a recessive allele can appear is if there's just 2 little ones, 2 recessive alleles. So that's what you guys have learned so far about genetics, and today we are going to do an inventory of the traits that we have. And these are easily observable traits that some people have and some people don't have. So we're going to take this inventory, which is just making a list basically, and you're going to do it by taking a form, and then we're going to look at the results of everybody. All right, so let's take a look at this. So right now I'm looking at this website. It is Observable Human Characteristics, and it says we are all unique. Even though we share some characteristics with our peers and with our family members, every one of us has a unique combination of traits. Some traits are controlled by genes that pass from parents to children, and others are acquired through learning, but most of them are influenced by a combination of genes and environmental factors. Below are some examples of variable traits that are easy to observe. Okay, so the first one is earlobe attachment. So everybody hold on to your earlobe. This is your earlobe, and you might have to look into a mirror or look into a selfie camera or something to see if your earlobes are attached. So you can read these 2 paragraphs about it if you want, but basically what it's asking is the bottom of your earlobe, is it attached like this, or is it unattached? Mine is unattached because you can kind of go like this with it. You can move it all around. This is an unattached earlobe. But some people have attached earlobes where the base of it is connected. Okay, so that's earlobe attachment. Tongue rolling is the next one. So some people can't do this with their tongue. Can you do that? So take a look into a mirror and look at yourself. Can you roll your tongue like that? And some people think that they're doing it, but they're not really doing it. So you'll have to look into a mirror and make sure. I think I can do it. Let me see. Yes, I can do it. And so if you can or can't do that, you will indicate that on the form. Dimples. Dimples are small natural indentations on the cheek. So this guy in this picture, he has dimples, and it's not the same thing as this. They're further away. So let me take a look here. I don't think I have dimples, because it's not talking about when you smile. It's not talking about this indentation here. Dimples are like further back, like in this picture that I'm looking at right here. So do you have dimples or not? Handedness. This is like what I was talking about before. I'm left-handed. So what hand do you write with, left or right? Freckles. Do you have freckles? I do not have freckles. Usually freckles are around here. So indicate whether or not you have freckles. So curly hair is a little bit confusing. Let's read this together. Round hair follicles make straight hair. Flattened or C-shaped hair follicles make curly hair. And oval hair follicles make wavy hair. So what this means is like the hair follicles that's inside of your skin, and where the hair comes out of your skin, those are hair follicles. So there's different shapes, and those different shapes produce different type of texture of hair. And it says hair texture is a continuous trait, meaning that the hair can be straight or curly or anywhere in between. So it's like a spectrum. So there's like straight or curly or anywhere in between, like wavy. My hair is kind of like wavy in the middle. It says here, multiple genes control hair texture, and different variations in these genes are found in different populations. For instance, curly hair is common in African populations, rare in Asian populations, and in between in Europeans. So my ancestry is European, so mine is actually pretty wavy. So like if I grew out my hair, it'd be kind of wavy. My beard is kind of wavy if I grew it out longer. And also facial hair is different than head hair. The way that it grows is different. So the question is it curly? Like, is it on this end of the spectrum? Is it like really curly? So that'll be up to you to decide. For me, I would say no, because I'm like in between. The question is your hair like really curly? Okay. Hand clasping. I find this one interesting. So when you everybody put your hands apart like this, and then put them together like that. Clasp them together. And, it seems like a normal thing to do, but some people clasp their hands differently than other people. Right now, my right thumb is on top of my left thumb, so it is over. So the right thumb is on top of the left. Some people, when they clasp together, they put their left thumb over their right thumb. So which do you do? Do you do left on the top or right on the top? For me, it's natural to do right on the top. Next one is hairline shape. Hairline shape is kind of a gray area too. It's not always easy to tell. When it comes to a point, when your hairline comes to a point here and it kind of goes back a little bit, that's called a widow's peak. And for me, if I'm looking at my hairline, it's hard to tell too because I'm getting older and my hairline is receding a little bit, because it does go back here a little bit, but it doesn't really come to a point. It's not like one point. My whole life it's kind of been kind of flat here, even though it kind of goes back with the shape of my forehead. So I would say no, I don't have a widow's peak, but look into a mirror and determine whether or not you think that your hairline comes to a point. So that's basically up to just you to be the judge of whether or not you think you have it. Okay, and I think that's the last one. Yeah, so go ahead and go online and take that form, and you can figure out where you are at with your trait inventory. And then next week when we come back, we're going to have data of all the students that have done this, and we're going to look at all the students' characteristics, and we're going to make a graph of the results. So we're going to be able to see, like I even remember doing this when I was a kid. I remember seeing the results of my class, and I'm like, wow, a lot of people have one trait rather than another. It is very interesting to look at everybody's results for these traits. Okay? So, thanks for doing that. And right, today is Friday. I think you're watching this on a Friday. So, have a good weekend, guys. Thanks for doing your work. Thanks for hanging in there. And I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.